"We're moving in on Friday," my brother announced over speakerphone, his tone casual, as if he were just talking about weekend plans. Mom already agreed. I stared at my phone from my desk in Nashville, where I manage marketing campaigns for Velmark Automation. His words didn't make sense at first. Moving in where? "What are you talking about, Tyler?" I asked, forcing myself to stay calm even though my pulse was racing. "Your beach house," he replied easily. "Mom said you barely use it anyway. Jenna and I need a place while we look for something permanent." She already gave us the security code. My stomach dropped. My beach house. The one I had saved for years to buy. The one I finally closed on just 8 months ago after countless sacrifices and 70-hour work weeks. My personal sanctuary. "Tyler, nobody asked me about this," I said tightly. "That house is mine. I own it," he actually laughed. "Come on, Susie, don't be like that. It's just temporary. Mom said you'd understand. Family helps family, right?" I hung up without another word, my hands trembling. I immediately opened my laptop and launched the home security app. I had installed a top-tier alarm system just 3 months earlier after a string of neighborhood break-ins. Motion sensors, cameras, everything cutting edge. My name is Susie. At 29, I had worked harder than most people twice my age to reach where I was. I started in marketing right after college, took every extra project, smiled through exhaustion, and saved every dollar I could. 5 years ago, I bought my first rental property. Then another. The beach house in Wilmington, North Carolina was supposed to be different. Not an investment, not a rental. Mine. My phone buzzed again. "Mom." "Susie, honey," she began before I could even say hello. "Tyler told me you were upset. I don't see why you're making such a big deal out of this. He's your brother. He needs help. He needs to ask me first," I said through clenched teeth. "It's my house, Mom, not yours to give away." "Don't be selfish," she snapped. There it was, the tone I'd known all my life. "You have so much, and Tyler is struggling. His lease is up, and they need somewhere to stay. You're hardly ever there anyway." That wasn't the point. The point was that no one had asked. No one cared that maybe I wanted to use my own property, that maybe I had plans, or that I deserved to be consulted about my own house. "Mom, the answer is no. He can't move in." "Well, it's too late now," she said. "I already gave him the code, and they're packing. Tyler said they'll be there Friday afternoon." I closed my eyes, trying to steady my breathing. Classic. My entire life. Tyler had been the one who needed rescuing. Failed businesses, credit card debt, job hopping. And every single time, Mom swooped in to fix it, usually at my expense. When I was 16, she borrowed the $3,000 I had saved from my part-time job to help Tyler pay off his car loan. He was 21 and had ruined his credit. I never saw that money again. When I graduated college, she asked me to co-sign an apartment lease for him because his credit was still a mess. I refused, and she didn't speak to me for 2 months. "Mom, if Tyler shows up at that house, I'm calling the police." "You wouldn't dare," she said, her voice turning cold. "He's your brother, Susie, your own flesh and blood. What kind of person threatens family with police?" "The kind who's tired of being walked over," I replied, and ended the call. I sat there in my office, surrounded by campaign mock-ups and client decks, feeling that same familiar knot in my stomach, the one that always appeared when my family decided how I should spend my life. Money and time. But something felt different this time. Maybe it was because I had finally achieved something meaningful. Maybe it was the exhaustion of always being the responsible one, the one expected to sacrifice. Or maybe I had simply reached my limit. I opened the security app again and changed all access codes. Then I activated the trespassing alert system. If anyone tried to enter without permission, it would automatically record video, trigger an alarm, and alert both me and the local police. My phone buzzed again. Tyler. "What the hell, Susie? The code doesn't work?" "That's because I changed it." "Why would you do that?" "We're already on the road. We've got a U-Haul full of our stuff." "Then you should turn around," I said evenly. "I never gave you permission to move into my house." Mom said, "Mom doesn't own the house, Tyler. I do. And I'm saying no." There was silence. Then his voice came back sharp. "You're being ridiculous. We're coming anyway. We'll figure it out when we get there." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, my heart pounding. They were coming anyway. Of course they were. My family had never respected my boundaries. My needs and desires had never mattered. I was expected only to give to help, to accommodate, and to be grateful for the chance. I pulled up the security footage from the house, checking that everything was working correctly. The cameras covered every entrance, the motion sensors were active, and the police alert was engaged. Part of me hoped they might see reason, that Tyler would call and apologize, or that Mom would realize she had overstepped, but I knew better. My coworker Janet knocked on my office door. "Hey, are you okay?" "You look stressed." I forced a weak smile. "Family stuff," she nodded knowingly. "Say no more, coffee, please." As she left, I glanced back at my computer screen. The security dashboard glowed with green indicators. Everything was armed and ready. I had worked too hard and sacrificed too much to let anyone, even family, take what was mine. Still, a warning flickered in my gut. This was likely going to get worse before it got better. The rest of Wednesday dragged on. I couldn't focus on work and kept checking my phone every few minutes. Tyler didn't call. Neither did Mom. The silence felt heavy, like the calm before a storm. By Thursday morning, I still hadn't heard anything. I tried calling Tyler and Mom, no answer. Clearly, they were freezing me out, hoping I'd crack under the pressure and be painted as the villain. This was an old tactic, one they had used successfully for years. When I was 23, just out of college and barely making ends meet, Mom had called crying. Tyler had lost a job and couldn't pay rent. Could I help just this once? I gave her $800 that I desperately needed for my own bills. I ate ramen for 6 weeks and took on extra freelance work to cover the gap. Tyler never thanked me. Never even acknowledged it. The pattern continued. My graduation money went to Tyler's security deposit, a small inheritance to pay off his credit card debt. He never repaid any of it. When I finally tried to set boundaries, suddenly I became the selfish one, the heartless sister who didn't care about family. Thursday afternoon, my phone finally rang. "Unknown number. Hello, is this Susie?" A woman's voice asked. "Yes, who's this?" "This is Jenna, Tyler's girlfriend," she said. I had met her only a few times over the past year. Pleasant enough, but we'd never had a real conversation. "Hi, Jenna, what's going on?" "I need to talk about the house situation," she said, her voice nervous. "Tyler told me what's happening, and I didn't know he hadn't asked you first." I straightened up. "You didn't?" "No. He said you had offered the place while we looked for an apartment and that you were happy to help. But he mentioned the code wasn't working. When I asked, he finally admitted, you never actually agreed to any of this." Relief washed over me, quickly replaced by anger. Of course Tyler had lied. Of course he had manipulated the situation. "Jenna, thanks for calling," I said carefully. "But yes, nobody asked me. I only found out when Tyler told me they were moving in." "I'm so sorry," she said, genuinely distressed. "I told him we should find another solution, but he's insisting on going through with it. He claims you're overreacting and will come around once you see them there." My blood pressure spiked. "That's not going to happen. I understand." "It's your house," she said hesitantly. But he's not backing down. He's been telling everyone you're being selfish, and Mom is supporting him. They're planning to show up tomorrow. "If they show up, the police will be called automatically," I said firmly. "My security system has trespassing alerts." A long silence followed. "Seriously?" "Seriously." There was a heavy exhale on the other end. "Okay, I was going to try to reason with him, but Susie, you should know he's extremely angry. He claims that you've always acted superior to him and flaunted your success while he struggles." I let out a bitter laugh. "I earned everything I have. He's had the same opportunities." "I know," Jenna said softly. "I have to go, but I wanted to give you a heads up. I don't think this will end well." After she hung up, I sat in my car outside my apartment, staring blankly. The situation was absurd. I shouldn't have to defend my right to my own property, nor justify wanting to be consulted before family members gave away access to it. But that's the reality of family dynamics. Logic and fairness didn't matter. It was about roles, and my role had always been the responsible one, constantly giving. That night, sleep eluded me. I kept checking the security app, half expecting to see Tyler's car pull up in the middle of the night. But the house remained quiet. Friday morning arrived under gray skies and drizzle. I called in sick, which I rarely did, and paced my apartment. My phone remained silent. No messages from Tyler, no calls from Mom. Then, at 11 a.m., notifications flooded in. The security system had been triggered. I grabbed my laptop and pulled up the live feed. My stomach sank. Tyler's truck was in the driveway, and he wasn't alone. Mom was there, along with Jenna and two others I didn't recognize, unloading boxes from a U-Haul. The alarm blared. Mom covered her ears while Tyler shouted into his phone. The automated message repeated, "Warning. Unauthorized entry detected. Police have been notified." My phone rang. Tyler yelled, "Turn off the alarm." "No, Susie, this is insane. We're family. You're trespassing, Tyler. I told you not to come." "Mom gave us permission," he insisted. "Mom doesn't own the house," I said, shaking with adrenaline. "I do, and I told you no." The feed showed Mom trying the front door. It was locked. They had assumed changing the keypad code would be enough, but I had also engaged the deadbolts remotely. No one was getting in without breaking a window, though I wondered if they might. "Just let us in, and we can talk like adults," Tyler said, his tone condescending as always. "There's nothing to discuss. Leave or wait for the police. Your choice." I watched him relay this to the group. Mom's face flushed. She approached the door, pounding on it, screaming something I couldn't hear over the alarm. Then I saw it. Tyler picked up a rock, weighing it in his hand as he eyed the window. "Tyler, don't," I said, my voice calm but firm. "If you break that window, it's not trespassing anymore. It's breaking and entering. That's a felony." "You're overreacting," he said, but he set the rock down. Sirens cut through the alarm. Police had arrived. The next hour was chaos from my camera's perspective. Two officers approached the group. Mom immediately began her explanation, gesturing wildly. Tyler stood arms crossed, defiant. Jenna lingered behind, looking miserable. One officer made a call. Moments later, my phone rang. "Hello, this is Officer Davidson with Wilmington Police. Am I speaking to Susie?" "Yes, that's me." "I'm at your property on Ocean View Drive. Can you confirm that you own this property and that these individuals don't have permission to be here?" I walked him through the timeline, the calls, and the explicit instruction I gave them not to come. He listened patiently, asking occasional clarifying questions. "Understood," he said. "They claim implied permission through family and say your mother allowed them to stay here." "She does not have that authority," I said firmly. "I am the sole owner. I have the deed and can provide it if needed." "That won't be necessary," he replied. "I can verify ownership through county records." There was a pause. "Ma'am, do you want to press trespassing charges?" My heart raced. This was the moment of no return. Saying yes meant my family might never forgive me. I would be seen as the villain, the one who put property above family. But saying no meant this cycle would continue, over and over. "Yes," I said, my voice steady despite trembling hands. "I want to press charges against all of them." Through the camera feed, I watched Officer Davidson relay my decision. Mom's face shifted from red to pale. Tyler started yelling, pointing at the camera, suddenly aware I was observing everything. Another officer was taking statements, scribbling notes. One of Tyler's friends, someone I didn't recognize, began arguing with the police. It didn't end well. Within minutes, he was told to leave or face a citation. Mom stepped up to the camera. "Susie," she said, her voice clear over the audio. "If you do this, you're dead to me. You're not my daughter anymore." The words should have stung. Perhaps part of me wanted them to. But instead, I felt exhausted, tired of the repeated conflicts. "She's making her choice," Tyler added, moving to stand beside Mom. "Let her live with it." Officer Davidson was explaining the citations, holding them out. Tyler grabbed his immediately, furious. Mom initially refused hers, arms crossed, stubborn. Eventually, the officer handed it to Tyler to give her. The group spent nearly an hour loading everything back into the U-Haul. I observed every step, ensuring nothing was damaged in spite. They worked silently, tense, occasionally glancing at the camera. When they finally drove away, the property looked exactly as it had before, except now there were police reports, official documentation, and evidence of the incident. My phone rang. Unknown number. Curiosity made me answer. "You actually did it," Jenna's hollow voice said. "You pressed charges against your own family." "They committed a crime," I replied softly. "I gave them every opportunity to stop." "Tyler says he's going to sue. He claims you have plenty of space and are just being vindictive. Your mom says you've broken her heart, that she can't believe she raised someone so cold." Her words were meant to instill guilt, and they almost did. My chest tightened and my throat burned with unshed tears. "Jenna, why are you calling me?" I asked, "to make sure you understand what you've done." What this will cost them. What about what they did to me? I shot back. Did anyone consider that? Did anyone care that they were stealing from me? It's not stealing when it's family. Yes, it is, I said firmly. That's exactly what it is, she hung up. I sat on the couch, staring at my laptop showing the empty driveway. The alarm had been silenced. The property was secure. Everything appeared normal, but nothing would ever truly be the same. My phone buzzed with a text from an unfamiliar number. The message made it clear who it was from. You'll regret this. Family doesn't forget. Another text followed, a photo, a social media screenshot of Tyler's long post. He painted me as a heartless sister, calling the police on family trying to enter my vacant beach house. Comments flooded in, mostly condemning me. Family comes first. She has so much and won't share. Tyler doesn't deserve this. Only one voice defended me. My cousin Maya commented, there are two sides to every story. Maybe ask why this happened before rushing to judge. The replies came fast, harsh, and unforgiving. I closed the app and placed my phone face down on the coffee table. My hands trembled. This was exactly what I had feared. I was being condemned in the court of family opinion, cast as the villain for simply protecting what was rightfully mine. Yet beneath the fear and guilt, another feeling stirred, something close to relief. I had said no. I had stood my ground, and the world hadn't fallen apart. It was messy, uncomfortable, and painful, yes, but I had done it. I opened my security app again, making sure everything was fully locked. Then I activated vacation mode, which would alert me to any movement at all, even animals crossing the yard. Because I knew this wasn't finished. Tyler wasn't one to let things go. And my mother. She would see this as betrayal that demanded punishment, but I had something they didn't. Proof. Documentation, security footage, police reports, property deeds in my name alone. And I had finally found the courage to stop sacrificing myself for their comfort. Whatever came next, I was ready. For the first time, I had chosen myself, even if it cost me everything. The weekend passed in a blur of tension and anger. My phone stayed on silent, but I kept checking it anyway. Messages piled up. Aunts and uncles I hadn't heard from in years suddenly had opinions about my character. Cousins chimed in. Even my father's brother, a man I'd spoken to maybe 3 times, sent a long message about family loyalty and forgiveness. Not one of them asked for my side. By Monday, I had over 60 unread texts and 15 voicemails. I deleted them all without reading or listening. Letting those words in would have broken me. Work became my escape. I threw myself into a product launch campaign for Velmar Automation, spending 12-hour days refining copy and coordinating with design. Janet noticed but said little, only bringing me dinner from the Thai place down the street. You're working yourself to death, she said, placing pad thai on my desk at 8 p.m. Whatever's going on, running from it won't fix it. I'm not running, I said, though we both knew I was. Just staying focused. She gave me a knowing look but didn't push. Tuesday brought a new problem. An email from a lawyer. Not Tyler's, my mother's. The subject read, property dispute and defamation. My stomach sank. The email was formal but clear. She claimed I had verbally agreed to let Tyler stay at the beach house, that she witnessed this agreement in good faith, and that I had then gone back on it, filing false police reports and damaging her reputation by implying she was involved in wrongdoing. She was threatening to sue me for defamation and emotional distress, demanding $75,000. I read the email 3 times, my vision blurring with disbelief. She was really doing this, using the legal system to punish me for saying no. I forwarded it to my lawyer, Patricia, sharp, composed, and the one who had handled my property deals. Within an hour, she called. This is nonsense, Patricia said flatly. Complete garbage. She has no case. You have security footage, phone records, text messages, all proving you never gave permission. This is a slap suit, a strategic lawsuit meant to scare you into giving up. Can she actually take me to court? I asked. She can file anything she wants, Patricia replied. Doesn't mean a judge will allow it. But understand, even a frivolous lawsuit costs money to fight. She's probably hoping you'll settle just to make it disappear. I rubbed my temples, feeling the pressure build. How much to defend it if it goes that far? 10 to 30,000, she said. Depends on how aggressive she is. The number hit me hard. $30,000. to defend myself against a baseless lawsuit filed by my own mother. Send her a response, I said quietly. We have all the documentation, and her claims are unfounded. If she continues, we will pursue legal action to recover attorney fees and address harassment. Are you certain this is an escalation? She escalated the moment she filed the lawsuit. I'm merely defending myself. After the call ended, I sat alone in my office with the door closed, struggling to hold back tears. This was supposed to be resolved. They were expected to respect my boundaries and move on, yet they doubled down, attempting to force me into compliance through intimidation and financial pressure. My phone buzzed. Tyler, you got mom sued now too? Do you know how much lawyers cost? I stared at the text, anger rising. The audacity, the absolute audacity, of portraying me as the aggressor when they had attempted to take my house. I typed back, I didn't sue anyone. Mom filed a frivolous lawsuit against me. Tell her to drop it, or my lawyer will make it very costly for her. Seconds later, his reply came, You're pathetic. Threatening your own mother. I blocked his number. Then my mother's. Next, I blocked every family member who had sent hateful messages over the last few days. By the time I finished, my contact list looked almost empty. Janet knocked on my office door. Hey, there's someone here to see you. She says she's your cousin. My heart sank. Maya? Yeah, that's her. Should I tell her you're busy? I hesitated. Maya had been my only supporter online, but that didn't mean I wanted to revisit everything face to face. Still, she had traveled all the way to Nashville. I owed her at least a conversation. No, it's fine. Send her in. Maya looked different from what I remembered. Her hair was short and dyed vibrant red, and she wore a leather jacket over a vintage band t-shirt. She carried an air of confidence that I hadn't noticed in our childhood. Hey, Susie, she said softly. I hope it's okay that I showed up unannounced. I tried calling, but it went straight to voicemail. I've been blocking people, I admitted. Sorry, come in. Sit down. She closed the door and settled into the chair across from me. For a moment, we just looked at each other. You're getting crucified in the family group chat, she said finally. It's brutal. They're talking about you like you're a monster. I know. Do you want to know what they're saying? Not particularly, I replied. She nodded slowly. Probably wise. But I want you to know I don't believe their version. I know Tyler, I know your mom. I know how they operate. Something in my chest loosened slightly. Thank you. Tyler did the same thing to me 3 years ago, Maya continued. Not with a house, but with my car. He borrowed it for 1 day and kept it for 6 weeks, racking up 3 parking tickets. He returned it empty and dented. When I asked him to cover the damage, he told everyone I was unreasonable and that I valued money over family. I stared at her, surprised. I hadn't known that. Nobody did because I hadn't pressed the issue. I fixed the car myself and stopped lending him anything, but I regretted not standing up to him. To all of them, she leaned forward. You did the right thing, Susie. I know it doesn't feel like it now, but you did. Tears pricked my eyes, and I blinked them back. Mom's suing me. Did you know that? Maya's eyes widened. What? For what? Defamation, emotional distress. Complete nonsense, according to my lawyer, but still, it would cost money to contest. Of course it would. Maya shook her head, clearly disgusted. That was exactly the kind of petty, vindictive move she would make. She couldn't control you, so she was trying to punish you. It's working, I said quietly. You feel like the worst person in the world? That's what they want. They want you to feel guilty enough to cave, apologize, and go back to being their doormat. She reached across the desk and squeezed my hand. Don't give them that satisfaction. We talked for another hour. Maya explained family dynamics I hadn't known. Tyler borrowing money from our grandmother before she passed, never paying it back. Mom guilt-tripping our uncle into giving Tyler his old car at 16. The systematic way they isolated anyone who didn't follow their narrative. By the time she left, I felt less alone, but also something else. Anger. Not the immediate, fiery anger from Friday, but a colder, more deliberate kind. They wanted to play hardball, fine. I could play hardball too. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and started documenting everything. Every instance of financial abuse, every guilt trip, every manipulation. I combed through old texts, emails, and bank statements. I built a detailed timeline stretching back nearly 10 years. The pattern was clear. Over that decade, I had given my family more than $42,000, not loans, but gifts, because Tyler needed help, because Mom was stressed about bills, because family helped family. In the same period, Tyler had returned my car damaged 3 times after borrowing it, used my credit card without permission to buy concert tickets, and pressured me to co-sign loans I refused, earning months of silent treatment. Mom consistently sided with Tyler in every conflict. When I voiced frustration about always being the one helping, she called me selfish. When I set money boundaries, she labeled me greedy. When I bought my beach house, she insinuated I was flaunting my success while Tyler struggled. I had normalized it all, convincing myself this was just how families operated, that my resentment was petty and that I should be grateful I could help. Seeing it laid out in black and white, I realized this wasn't love. It was exploitation. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, the same number called again. I blocked it. Then my work phone rang. How did they get that number? I answered. Hello? Susie, it's your Aunt Caroline. Please don't hang up. I should have hung up. Instead, I asked, what do you want? I want to talk about what's happening with your mother and Tyler. Honey, I know you're upset, but this has gone too far. Your mother is beside herself. She's on medication for her blood pressure because of the stress. Then maybe she shouldn't have filed a fake lawsuit against me, I said. She's just trying to protect Tyler. He's struggling. He and Jenna broke up over this whole situation. Not my problem, I replied. Tyler made his choices. But family is supposed to forgive, help each other through hard times. I'm done helping people who only take and never give back. I'm done setting myself on fire to keep others warm. And I'm done being guilted for having boundaries. A long pause. When Caroline spoke again, her voice was cold. Your mother was right. You've changed. You've become hard, even cruel. If protecting myself makes me cruel, then yes, I'm cruel. You'll regret this. When you're old and alone, you'll wish you'd been kinder to the people who loved you. The people who loved me wouldn't have tried to steal from me, I said, and hung up. My hands shook. I grabbed a glass of water, trying to calm the adrenaline. The manipulation was obvious once you recognized it. The guilt, the loneliness threats, the reframing of abuse as love. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. Wednesday morning, I received an email from Patricia. Mom had responded to our letter with an even stronger stance, now claiming I owed Tyler compensation for emotional trauma from his arrest. They were raising the lawsuit to $100,000. This is getting ridiculous, Patricia wrote. I recommend filing a motion to dismiss and a countersuit for harassment and legal fees, but you need to be sure. It's going to get ugly, I wrote back. Do it. All of it. That afternoon, Wilmington police called. Detective Reeves identified himself. Miss Susie, regarding the trespassing incident last Friday, there's a development you need to know about. My pulse quickened. What kind of development? Your brother has filed a complaint claiming you verbally assaulted him during a phone call and threatened his safety. He says there are witnesses who heard the conversation. I sank back into my chair. That's completely untrue. I have recordings of all our conversations. I never threatened him. You have recordings? Yes. After things with my family turned hostile, I started recording all interactions. Is that legal in Tennessee? Yes, only one-party consent is needed. Do you still have those recordings? Every single one. I'll send them all to you. Your brother is attempting to portray you as the aggressor, while presenting himself and your mother as the victims. These recordings could be crucial. I sent everything, every phone call, voicemail, and text thread, before I had blocked them. Within 2 hours, Detective Reeves called back. Miss Susie, based on the evidence you provided, your brother's complaint has been dismissed. In fact, the recordings show multiple instances of harassment and intimidation from both your brother and your mother. Would you like to pursue additional charges? I considered it. The logical move would be to ensure they face consequences for their actions. But I was exhausted. I just wanted it to end. Not at this time, I said, but I want it documented that they made false claims against me. Already done. Also, Miss Susie, you may want to consider a restraining order. This pattern suggests potential escalation. After the call, I sat in my office staring blankly. A restraining order against my own mother and brother. It seemed surreal, like it belonged in someone else's life. But maybe that was the point. Perhaps my life had been impossible for a long time, and I simply hadn't acknowledged it. My work phone rang. Janet's extension. Susie, someone from corporate is here. They want to see you in the conference room. My stomach sank. Corporate? In our small regional office, that never happened. I walked to the conference room on shaky legs. Inside, a man in an expensive suit I didn't recognize stood with Melanie, our regional director. "Susie, please sit," Melanie said, her expression neutral. The man introduced himself. "I'm Gerald from Human Resources. Miss Susie, we've received concerning reports regarding your conduct, specifically allegations of misusing company resources and harassing family members during work hours." My blood ran cold. "What? From who?" The complaints were anonymous but included specific details about calls from your work line and claims that you used company time for personal legal matters. "That's not true," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the panic clawing at my throat. "I've made maybe 3 personal calls on my work phone in the past 6 months, all during lunch. And I've never used company time for anything beyond checking my emails." Gerald and Melanie exchanged a glance. "Can you prove that?" Gerald asked. "Yes. You can review my phone records and computer logs." "I have nothing to hide," Melanie spoke carefully. "Susie, we're not accusing you. We're required to follow up on these complaints. But is there some family situation we should know about?" I made a split-second decision, tell everything or minimize it. I chose honesty. I explained the beach house, the trespassing, the lawsuit, and the escalating harassment. I showed them the recordings, emails, and text messages. I laid everything out clearly. When I finished, Melanie looked furious, not at me, but at the situation. "This is harassment," she said firmly. "They're trying to sabotage your career because you set a boundary. Gerald, this complaint needs to be documented as malicious and false." Gerald nodded thoughtfully. "I'll note in your file that the allegations were investigated and found to be baseless. And Miss Susie, if you experience any further workplace harassment from these individuals, record everything and report it to HR immediately. This could become grounds for legal action on your part." After they left, I sat alone in the conference room, my head buried in my hands. They were trying to get me fired. My own family was actively working to destroy my career. How had things reached this point? The answer came Thursday evening through a Facebook message from a woman I didn't know. Her profile picture showed a middle-aged woman with kind eyes. "Hi, Susie, my name is Dorothy. I'm Tyler's ex-girlfriend from about 5 years ago. I saw what's happening with your family and thought you should know something. Your brother did the exact same thing to me that he tried to do to you. He moved into my apartment without asking, claimed I'd agreed, and when I told him to leave, your mother threatened to sue me for breaking her son's heart. I let him stay for 3 months just to avoid the legal mess. He never paid rent and stole jewelry from me when he finally left. I filed a police report, but he said they were gifts and I couldn't prove otherwise. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Please know you're not crazy and you're not alone. Tyler has a pattern, and your mother enables it. Stay strong." I stared at the message for a long time before replying. "Thank you for telling me this. Would you be willing to talk on the phone?" She responded right away. "Absolutely. Here's my number." I called her immediately. Dorothy answered on the second ring. "I'm so glad you reached out," she said. "I've carried guilt about what happened with Tyler for years. I should have stood up to him. I should have pressed charges. But I was scared and exhausted. I just wanted him gone." "I understand that," I said quietly. "But you didn't give in completely. That's brave. That's what I should have done. We talked for over an hour." Dorothy explained Tyler's pattern, finding women with stable jobs, apartments, savings, and then taking advantage of them. He'd charm them, play the victim, gain sympathy, and then the requests would start. Small favors, borrowed money, a few days' stay that stretched into weeks or months. "And your mother was always there," Dorothy continued, backing up his stories, making me feel guilty for setting boundaries. She said if I really loved Tyler, I'd help him get back on his feet. "Did she ever mention me?" I asked. "Once," Dorothy said. "She said you were successful but cold, that you had plenty of money but refused to help your struggling family. She made you sound like the villain." "Of course she did," I muttered. "Can I ask something else? Did Tyler ever get violent?" There was a long pause. Once, near the end. I told him to leave, and he punched a hole in my wall. Then he broke down crying, apologizing, saying he didn't know what came over him, that he was just stressed. Your mother came over and convinced me not to call the police, said it would ruin his life. My stomach twisted. "I'm so sorry that happened to you." "I'm sorry it's happening to you now," she said softly. "But Susie, please be careful. If Tyler feels like he's losing control, I don't know what he might do." After we hung up, I sat in the darkness of my apartment, Dorothy's words echoing in my mind. The pattern was undeniable. This wasn't just about a beach house, it was about control, power, and a family dynamic where Tyler was the center and everyone else was expected to revolve around him, sacrificing themselves to keep him comfortable. And I had finally stepped out of orbit. Friday morning, I made 3 decisions. First, I hired a private investigator to record any harassment or stalking from Tyler or Mom. If things escalated, I wanted evidence. Second, I filed for a restraining order. Patricia helped with the paperwork, and we included Dorothy's statement along with my documentation. Third, I changed my locks, upgraded my security system, and installed cameras around my apartment. If they knew where I worked, they likely knew where I lived. I felt paranoid, maybe even overreacting. But then I remembered the hole in Dorothy's wall, the stolen jewelry, the lies. Better cautious than unprepared. That afternoon, Janet knocked on my office door, her face uneasy. "There's a man here asking for you. He says he's your brother, but Susie, something about him feels off. I've asked security to stay with him in the lobby." My heart raced. "Tyler's here." "If that's your brother, yes. Do you want me to call the police?" I hesitated. He hadn't technically done anything illegal yet. Just showing up at someone's workplace wasn't a crime, but combined with everything else, it felt threatening. "No, but stay close and call them immediately if anything happens." I walked toward the lobby, phone recording in my pocket. Tyler stood near the entrance, looking tense. Security guard Tom watched from a few feet away, alert. "Tyler, what are you doing here?" I asked. He turned abruptly. His face looked worn, as if he hadn't slept in days. "We need to talk." "We don't. You need to leave." "Susie, please, just 5 minutes. I need to explain." "There's nothing to explain. You tried to move into my house without permission. When I said no, you tried to ruin my life. Now you're showing up at my workplace. This is harassment. I'm your brother. I shouldn't need permission to ask for help. You didn't ask. You demanded." There's a difference. People were starting to watch. Tom moved closer, hand near his radio. Tyler's voice dropped to a whisper. "You're going to regret this. You think you're clever, pressing charges, getting lawyers involved. But Mom's right about you. You've always been selfish. Thought you were better than me because of grades, job, everything. None of that matters. You're nothing without family." "Then I guess I'm nothing," I said calmly. "Now leave, or security will remove you." His face twisted in anger. For a moment, I feared he might strike me. Tom must have felt the same, stepping between us. "Sir, you need to leave the building now," Tom said firmly. Tyler's gaze shifted between me and Tom. Then suddenly, his expression softened, almost tearful. "I'm sorry," he said, voice breaking. "I didn't mean it. I'm just stressed, and Mom's on me constantly. Everything's falling apart. Can we just talk like family?" The shift from threat to vulnerability, the tears, the plea, it was calculated. If I hadn't documented his pattern of manipulation over the past week, I might have been fooled. "No, we can't. You need to leave." He stared for a long moment, the mask slipping briefly. The tears vanished and his eyes hardened. Then he turned and walked out. Tom waited until Tyler's truck left before speaking. "Miss Susie, I'm filing an incident report." He shouldn't be allowed back on the property. "Thank you, Tom." Back in my office, I sent the recording to Patricia and Detective Reeves and added a note to my restraining order application. Subject appeared at workplace. Made implicit threats. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You haven't won." This isn't over. I screenshotted it and added it to the evidence file. Dorothy had been right. This was far from over. But I was ready. I had documentation, witnesses, a clear paper trail showing who the aggressor was. Most importantly, I had stopped caring whether they loved me. It wasn't love. The restraining order hearing was set for Wednesday. Patricia prepared me thoroughly, explaining what to expect, potential questions, and how to remain composed. "The judge will want clear evidence of harassment and credible threat," she said over coffee Tuesday evening. "You have both. The recordings alone are damning. But expect your mother and brother to portray themselves as victims. I know they will. Good. Remember that. Don't let them unsettle you." That night I barely slept, running through scenarios, imagining what could go wrong. What if the judge didn't believe me? If Mom's lawyer was better? if I froze on the stand? Wednesday arrived, gray and cold. I wore a conservative navy suit, hair in a neat bun, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles whitened. Patricia met me outside. You look professional and composed. Remember, we're presenting facts, not competing for popularity. Inside the courtroom, Mom and Tyler sat across from us with their lawyer. Mom wore a floral dress, eyes red and puffy. Tyler's jaw was tight, suit ill-fitting, expression darkening as he saw me. The bailiff called the courtroom to order. Judge Morrison entered, stern in her 60s, sharp eyes, missing nothing. Case 2347. Susie petitioning for restraining orders against Tyler and Barbara. Petitioner, please approach. My legs shook as I walked to the witness stand. Patricia squeezed my shoulder briefly. Miss Susie, please state your relationship to the respondents. Barbara is my mother. Tyler is my brother. I'm seeking restraining orders against both. Tell me why. I took a breath and explained the timeline, starting with Tyler's call about moving into my beach house. The judge remained neutral, taking notes. When I described them showing up despite my explicit refusal, she asked, "Do you have documentation of this?" Yes, Your Honor, phone records, texts, and security footage. Patricia handed over our prepared binder. Judge Morrison scanned the pages, pausing at the security stills showing Tyler, Mom, and friends unloading boxes while the alarm blared. These individuals knew they did not have permission to be on the property. Yes, Your Honor, I repeatedly told them not to come, but they arrived anyway, I explained. I continued by outlining the harassment I experienced, the threatening messages, false complaints to my employer, Tyler showing up at my workplace, and the escalating lawsuit demands. For each claim, I submitted supporting evidence, screenshots, recordings, and witness statements. When I referenced Dorothy and her similar experiences with Tyler, my mother's lawyer objected, Your Honor, this is hearsay about unrelated incidents that do not pertain to the current case. Judge Morrison appeared unconcerned. I'll allow it. Patterns of behavior are relevant in assessing credibility and potential threat. Continue, Miss Susie. I described Tyler's visit to my office, noting the veiled threats and his shifting demeanor, from anger to feigned tears and back. I played the recording. The courtroom was silent as Tyler's voice echoed, You're going to regret this. You're still nothing without family. When it ended, Judge Morrison set down her pen. Thank you, Miss Susie. Please remain available. I would like to hear from the respondents now. My mother's lawyer called her to the stand first. She approached slowly, dabbing at her eyes. Mrs. Barbara, can you explain your version of these events? Her voice was soft and trembling. Your Honor, I don't understand how this happened. I was only trying to help my son. Tyler needed a place to stay, and Susie had this beautiful house empty. I thought I was doing the right thing, helping family. Did your daughter give you permission to allow access to her property? Well, not explicitly, but I assumed it was understood. Family helps family. That's what I taught her. Did she ever explicitly tell you no? Barbara hesitated. She was upset when Tyler first mentioned it, but I thought she'd come around. She usually does after she calms down. That's not my question. Did she say no? Another pause. She said she wanted to think about it. Patricia stood. Your Honor, we have recordings directly contradicting this. The petitioner clearly denied permission multiple times. Judge Morrison nodded. I've reviewed those recordings, Mrs. Barbara. I'll ask you directly. Did your daughter say no or words to that effect? Barbara's face flushed. She might have said something like that, but she didn't mean it. She was just being dramatic. So she refused permission, yet you chose to disregard that refusal? I was trying to keep peace in our family. Tyler needed help, and Susie wasn't being reasonable. Whether her response was reasonable is not for you to decide. The property legally belongs to her. You had no authority to grant access. Judge Morrison made a note. Let's move on to the lawsuit you filed against your daughter. Can you explain the basis of your claim? She humiliated us. She called the police on her own family like we were criminals. She damaged my reputation. People are talking, judging me. That is the direct result of attempting to access property without permission and being cited for trespassing. It wasn't like that. That is exactly what the police report states. Judge Morrison's tone sharpened, Mrs. Barbara. These consequences are the result of your own actions. That's not defamation, Mom cried harder. Her lawyer looked uneasy. Your Honor, my client is clearly distressed. The family relationship has been damaged by her choices, Judge Morrison interrupted. Next witness. Tyler took the stand, looking sullen. His lawyer tried to portray him as a struggling young man unfairly persecuted by his successful sister. Judge Morrison was unconvinced. Mr. Tyler, you showed up at your sister's workplace after she made it clear she wanted no contact. Correct. I just wanted to talk to her. To talk about what? Fixing your relationship by telling her she's nothing without family? Making statements that could be considered threats? I was upset. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it? Tyler struggled. I just meant family is important. She shouldn't throw it away. She didn't throw anything away, Mr. Tyler. She set a boundary. You and your mother repeatedly violated it, and when she enforced it, you retaliated with harassment and intimidation. Judge Morrison shuffled her papers. I've seen enough. My heart raced as everyone returned to their seats. Judge Morrison reviewed her notes, then spoke. I'm granting the restraining orders. Both Tyler and Barbara are prohibited from contacting Susie directly or indirectly, coming within 500 feet of her residence or workplace, or posting about her on social media. These orders remain in effect for 2 years, after which they may be reviewed for extension. Mom gasped. Tyler's face turned red. Furthermore, Judge Morrison stated that he was dismissing Barbara's defamation lawsuit, calling it frivolous and without merit. Miss Susie, you may file to recover legal fees if you wish. We will. Your Honor, Patricia responded. One more matter, Judge Morrison added, looking directly at Tyler. The recording played today contains language that could be seen as threatening. I am referring this to the District Attorney's Office for review of potential charges. Do you understand? Tyler's lawyer rose quickly. Your Honor, my client made these statements under emotional distress. That's for the DA to determine. This hearing is concluded. The gavel fell. As I walked out of the courtroom, my legs felt like jelly. Patricia was speaking, saying something about this being a complete victory, but I couldn't fully process it. 2 years. 2 years of court-mandated distance from my family. 2 years of peace. It felt surreal. Behind me, I could hear my mother's voice rising. This is wrong. She's my daughter. You can't do this. Her lawyer tried to calm her. Tyler remained silent, but I could feel his eyes on my back. I didn't turn around. Outside the courthouse, Patricia pulled me aside. That went better than I expected. Judge Morrison saw right through their manipulation. And referring Tyler's threats to the DA is significant. What does that mean? I asked. It means he could face criminal charges for harassment or intimidation. It's now up to the prosecutor, but with the evidence we have, there's a strong case. I nodded numbly. Part of me felt vindicated, but another part felt hollow. This was my mother and brother, and I had just received a court order to keep them away. Susie, Patricia said, touching my arm. You okay? I don't know. I think so. It's just a lot. Go home. Take the rest of the day off. Process this. And Susie, you did the right thing. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I drove home, the courthouse shrinking in my rearview mirror. My phone buzzed continuously. Texts from Maya congratulating me, a voicemail from Janet checking in, several blocked numbers I assumed were family members. I ignored them all. At home, I poured a glass of wine, even though it was only 2 p.m. I sat on the couch, staring at the wall, trying to sort out my emotions. Relief. Definitely relief. The anxiety that had lived in my chest for weeks was finally easing. But there was also grief. I mourned the family I had wanted, the one I had hoped would see me as valuable. That family didn't exist. Perhaps it never had. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, a notification appeared. I almost deleted it without listening, but something made me press play. Susie, it's Jenna. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I needed to tell you. Tyler and I broke up for good. After everything, I saw him differently. The things he said about you scared me. I realized if I stayed, I'd end up in your position. So I left. You were right to stand up to him. I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner. Take care of yourself. I saved the voicemail, adding it to my evidence file. Even with the restraining order, I knew this wasn't truly over. The following days were quiet. Suspiciously quiet. No texts from blocked numbers, no unexpected visitors, no anonymous complaints at work. It seemed the restraining order was working. On Saturday, I drove to Wilmington to check on the beach house. I hadn't been there since before the incident, and I needed to see it, to reclaim it as my space. The house looked exactly as I had left it. Peaceful, beautiful. The ocean stretched beyond the deck, waves rolling steadily, timeless. I walked through each room, touching the furniture, opening windows to let in the salt air. This was mine. I had earned it, and no one had the right to take it from me. That night, I slept soundly for the first time in weeks. On Sunday morning, I sat on the deck with a cup of coffee, watching the sunrise, and felt a shift within me. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was reclaiming my life. Monday brought news from Patricia. The DA's office had reviewed the case and decided to press charges against Tyler for criminal harassment. He would be arraigned next month. They were also investigating the false report he filed accusing me of making threats. Patricia explained, filing false police reports is a crime in North Carolina. He could face jail time. How much time? That depends on the charges and his record. Likely not much for a first offense, but it would stay on his record. Any violation of the restraining order would carry much harsher penalties. That same afternoon, I received an email from my mom's lawyer. They were dropping the defamation lawsuit entirely and offering to cover my legal fees to date, approximately $12,000. Patricia explained when I called her, they were trying to avoid a countersuit. If we pursued it, they could end up owing much more. It was a smart move on their part. Should I accept? That decision was mine. We could push for more, but it would mean more court appearances and time. Personally, I'd take the money and walk away. I had already won what mattered. I thought about it for a few seconds. Take it. 2 weeks later, a check arrived. $12,000. Not enough to cover the emotional toll they had imposed, but it was something, a tangible acknowledgement of wrongdoing. I deposited it quietly, not telling anyone in the family. Let them wonder. Work became my refuge again. The product launch campaign was a major success, bringing in 3 new significant clients for Velmark Automation. My boss pulled me aside to congratulate me. I know you've been dealing with personal issues, but your work hasn't suffered. If anything, you've been even more focused. I'm putting you up for promotion to senior director. You've earned it. The promotion came with a $30,000 raise. I celebrated with Janet and a few colleagues at a nice steakhouse, allowing myself to enjoy the moment without guilt. For the first time in my life, I wasn't bracing for disaster. 3 months after the restraining order was granted, I received a call from Detective Reeves. Miss Susie, I wanted to update you on Tyler's case. He pleaded guilty to criminal harassment and filing a false police report. He's been sentenced to 6 months probation, a $1,000 fine, and mandatory anger management counseling. It was standard for a first offense. But the crucial part was this. Any violation of his probation or the restraining order would result in immediate jail time. The judge made it clear she was monitoring him. What about my mom? She wasn't charged criminally, as she wasn't the primary aggressor, but the restraining order remained, and any violation on her part would be prosecuted. After the call, I reflected. 6 months probation seemed light for all he had done, but it was something. More importantly, he now had a criminal record. Anyone he tried to manipulate in the future would be able to see it. I considered reaching out to Dorothy, but decided instead to write a detailed post on a survivors forum for people dealing with family abuse. I changed names and identifying details but shared the full story. The beach house, the harassment, the legal battle, and the outcome. The responses were overwhelming. Thank you for sharing. I'm facing something similar with my sister and needed to hear that standing up to family is possible. You're so brave. This gives me hope. I wish I had done what you did. Instead, I gave in and am still being manipulated years later. Reading these messages, I realized my story mattered. Not because it was unique, unfortunately. It wasn't. But because it demonstrated that setting boundaries with toxic family members was possible and that you could emerge intact. Around the same time, I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Karen, who specialized in family trauma and narcissistic abuse. She helped me understand the patterns that had shaped my life and how I had been conditioned to prioritize everyone else's needs over my own. You've been trained to equate boundaries with cruelty, she explained during a session. That's intentional. It's a control mechanism. As long as you felt guilty for having needs, they could keep taking from you. How do I stop feeling guilty? I asked. You practice. Each time guilt arises, examine it. Ask, is this genuine guilt for something I've done wrong, or is it conditioned guilt because I'm not performing the role they assigned me? Slowly, the guilt began to lose its grip. 6 months after the restraining order, I received a message from Maya. She was getting married and wanted me at her wedding. A small ceremony. Just close friends and family who truly mattered, meaning you were invited and Tyler was not. Mom was losing her mind over it, but I didn't care. This was my day, and I wanted you there. The wedding was intimate and beautiful, held in a garden with around 30 guests. I met Maya's fiancée, Jules, a warm and humorous woman who clearly adored her. I also reconnected with cousins who had long distanced themselves from the toxic aspects of the family. Over champagne, one cousin remarked that more of us had quietly stepped away from the drama than anyone realized. You, however, were the first who had actively fought back legally, and that had taken real courage. During the reception, Maya pulled me aside. "Thank you for coming. It means the world to me." I thanked her for the invitation, noting, "Mom tried to get me to uninvite you. She said it would ruin her day to have you there." Maya smiled. "And what did you tell her?" I asked. "That she wasn't invited either," she replied. "Best decision I ever made. This day has been perfect." Looking around at the celebration, at people who genuinely cared without hidden motives, I felt a sense I hadn't experienced in years. Hope for what family could be when it was healthy. A year after the courthouse showdown, I received a letter not from Mom or Tyler, who were still under the restraining order, but from Aunt Caroline, the same one who had once called me cruel. It was several pages long, handwritten. She apologized, admitting she had always recognized Mom and Tyler's problematic behavior, but had been too afraid to speak up. Watching what they had done to me and seeing me endure it had given her the courage to establish her own boundaries. She explained that she had recently cut contact after they attempted to manipulate her into taking sides. "You were right," she wrote. "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I'm sorry I tried to make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. You deserved better from all of us." I cried while reading her words, not from sadness but from validation, from finally feeling understood. I wrote back, and we began to rebuild a cautious but genuine connection, with clear boundaries on both sides. 18 months after the restraining order, I sold the beach house, not out of necessity but choice. It had served its purpose, proving I could achieve something significant independently. Keeping it felt more symbolic than practical. I used the proceeds to purchase a small cabin in the mountains outside Nashville, a quiet, peaceful place untouched by family drama. The cabin became my sanctuary. Weekends were spent hiking, reading, and embracing the comfort of silence. I returned to painting, a hobby I hadn't practiced since high school, and adopted a rescue dog named Cooper, who became my constant companion. I was finally building a life that belonged entirely to me. Patricia checked in occasionally, maintaining professionalism, but with a hint of friendship. "How are you doing? Staying safe?" she asked. "I'm doing really well," I replied. "Good, you've earned this. You fought hard for your peace." The restraining order was initially set to expire after 2 years, but both Mom and Tyler petitioned for early termination. Judge Morrison denied their requests, noting their lack of genuine remorse and continued victim narrative. Patricia handled the proceedings. I did not attend, and the outcome spoke for itself. Tyler struggled after his conviction. His criminal record limited job prospects, and he drifted between low-paying positions. According to Maya, he blamed me for ruining his life, never acknowledging that his own actions carried consequences. Mom fared slightly better professionally but became socially isolated. News of the events spread through her community. Friends and church members quietly distanced themselves. She struggled to understand why her narrative, of merely helping her son, didn't resonate. Aunt Caroline shared that Mom had attempted reconciliation, which quickly devolved into denial and blame, prompting Caroline to walk away. Both Tyler and Mom remained entrenched in their victim narratives, convinced the world had treated them unfairly. Neither admitted to the theft, harassment, or manipulation that had transpired. Acknowledging those truths would have required them to confront their true selves, and they simply weren't capable of that level of self-reflection. As for me, I flourished. The promotion led to another, and by 31, I became a senior director, one of the youngest in the company's history. I guided junior employees, offering not just career advice, but also insights on boundaries and self-worth. I dated casually, taking my time and refusing to rush into anything. I traveled to destinations I had long dreamed of: Iceland, New Zealand, Ireland. I invested in additional properties, not to prove anything to anyone, but because I could. Most importantly, I learned to trust myself, to recognize that my needs were valid, my boundaries reasonable, and that prioritizing myself was not selfish. It was essential for survival. Sometimes late at night in the cabin with Cooper curled up beside me, I reflected on that day in the courthouse. I remembered Judge Morrison's gavel coming down, Mom's expression when the restraining order was granted, and the sense of hollow victory that had initially felt unsatisfying. But in reality, it wasn't hollow. It marked the start of my real life. A life where I chose who could have access to me, where I safeguarded what I had built, and where I could say no without guilt. I thought about the 16-year-old version of myself, handing over $3,000 she had saved simply because her mom asked. I remembered all the years of giving, sacrificing, and burning myself out to keep others comfortable. I was grateful to that girl for enduring it all, but even more grateful that I wasn't her anymore. The journey here had cost me a family, but what I gained was far more valuable. Myself, my peace, my power, and the understanding that love without respect isn't love. It's just control with a prettier name. I still kept the security footage from the day they tried to move in. Occasionally, I watched it to remind myself that standing firm was the right choice, that I had no reason for guilt, and that protecting myself had been the most important action I had ever taken. The restraining order would eventually expire, and I knew there was a chance they might try again. Apologies, sob stories, or new manipulative tactics. But I also knew this: I would never let them back in. I had learned that lesson too well, at too great a cost. Some bridges, once burned, are meant to stay burned, and I was finally truly at peace with that.